Hello, little listener. Tonight's story is about a tiny cloud, soft and shy, who floated high above the world, but didn't want to rain because it loved watching the dreams below. High up in the sky, far above the rooftops and trees, floated a cloud named Nilo. Nilo was the smallest cloud in the sky, puffy and white, like a scoop of sleepy whipped cream. All the other clouds had jobs. Some made shade, some brought snow, and others, the big gray ones, rumbled with thunder and let the rain fall. But Nilo didn't want to rain, not even a drop. When the wind asked why, Nilo said, "I don't want to wake the dreamers below. I like watching them sleep." Because each night, as the stars came out and the towns grew still, Nilo would float low and gentle, peeking through windows and garden trees. He'd see children curled up under blankets, stuffed animals tucked under arms, eyes fluttering as dreams began to bloom. Sometimes he saw giggles in their sleep, other times soft sighs. Once, a little boy whispered, "Hello, cloud," and Nilo felt his heart grow fluffy with joy. The other clouds didn't understand. "Rain is important," they said. "It helps flowers grow." But Nilo believed dreams help little hearts grow too. So instead of raining, Nilo learned to do something else. He gently drizzled dream mist. Not wet, not cold, just a touch of sparkle in the air to make dreams sweeter. It felt like a kiss from the sky. And soon, the flowers still grew. The dreams grew too. And the other clouds began to smile at Nilo when they passed. They didn't try to change him anymore. Because sometimes, being soft is the strongest thing you can be. Tonight, if your window feels a little cooler, a little softer, maybe Nilo is floating by, watching over your dream and wishing you good night. Hello, little dreamer. Tonight's story is about a tiny raindrop who didn't want to fall like the others, but wanted to stay and watch the world sleep. High up in the clouds, a small raindrop named Remy was born. All around him, other raindrops were excited. They bounced and sparkled, ready to jump down to earth. But Remy, he wasn't sure. "Why do we have to fall so fast?" he asked. "To bring water to flowers," one drop said. "To fill rivers," shouted another. But Remy looked down and saw soft lights in little houses, chimneys sleeping, and rooftops glowing from the moon. He didn't want to rush. He wanted to stay a little longer and watch how the world fell asleep. So while the others dove down in silver streaks, Remy floated slowly, drifting like a feather in the wind. He paused above a quiet town, just over a sleepy bedroom window. Inside, a child was tucked under a starry blanket, breathing softly. Remy leaned closer to the glass, listening to the calm, watching the soft rise and fall of tiny breaths. And then he did something no raindrop had ever done. He stopped falling. He hovered gently in the air and whispered to the window, "Sleep well, little one. I'll watch the night with you." All night long, Remy stayed, a tiny glimmer outside the window, guarding the dream world from above. When morning came, the sun touched Remy with golden warmth, and with a he finally let go, sliding gently down the glass like a kiss from the sky. Maybe tonight a raindrop is waiting outside your window too. Not to fall, but to stay a little longer and make sure your dreams are safe. Good night, little one. Hello, soft sleeper. Tonight's story is about a bell, small and silver, that made no sound in the day, but rang gently only inside dreams. In a little shop at the end of a cobblestone street, there sat a dusty wooden shelf filled with forgotten things. Among old books, feather pens, and glass bottles was a tiny silver bell. It had no string, no clapper, and when you shook it during the day, it made no sound at all. But at night, when the shop was closed, the stars were out, and the moonlight crept across the wooden floor, the bell began to shimmer softly. Because this bell had a secret. It only rang in dreams. When children closed their eyes and the world became quiet, the bell would ring, not loudly, but gently, like a note made of moonlight and air. Ding! That sound would float into the dreams of little ones, and wherever they were, in a sky made of bubbles, or on a train made of marshmallows, they would hear it. The bell wasn't just a sound, it was a signal. When the bell rang, dream doors opened. Trees whispered bedtime secrets. Clouds shaped themselves into cuddly animals. Tunnels of stars appeared, leading to new adventures. But the bell didn't just lead the way, it also kept dreamers safe. If a dream ever felt too twisty, if the wind blew too loud, or the colors turned too wild, the bell would ring again. Ding! And everything would calm, the dreams would slow, the lights would dim, the stars would hold your hand. By morning, the bell would stop ringing, its shine would fade, and it would wait, quietly, patiently, for night to fall once more. So tonight, if your dreams feel soft and still, and you hear a tiny sound that feels like peace, that's the bell, just for you. Good night. Hello, tiny dreamer. Tonight's story is about a little rain cloud, so soft and sleepy that all it ever wanted was a nap of its own. High above the treetops, where the wind dances and birds sing their morning songs, lived a little rain cloud named Droppy. Droppy wasn't like the other clouds. While the big clouds puffed proudly and rode through the sky, bringing rain and shade and thunder, Droppy just wanted to curl up and nap. But every time Droppy found a nice spot in the sky to rest, the sun would tickle it, or the wind would nudge it, or the other clouds would call out, "Come on, Droppy, time to drizzle." Droppy would "hi" and sprinkle a few raindrops just to be polite. But deep down, all it wanted was one peaceful, quiet nap. One evening, as the sky turned pink and soft, Droppy floated away from the busy part of the sky. It found a corner above a quiet hill where everything below was still. Children were heading to bed. Windows glowed warmly. Even the trees swayed like they were getting sleepy. This, thought Droppy, feels like a nap place. So Droppy wrapped its fluff around itself like a blanket, let out a long, misty ah, and finally began to rest. As Droppy napped, something magical happened. The wind calmed, the stars blinked slower, and soft mist drifted down like a lullaby. The children in the village didn't feel rain that night, just a gentle coolness, like the sky itself was cuddling them. Mothers, smells like sleepy rain tonight. Fathers, shh, the clouds are resting. And all the while, Droppy dreamed its own dreams, of pillows made of fog, of stars that whispered lullabies, and of sleeping on the moon. When morning came, the sky was clear and bright, and Droppy, still floating gently, softer than ever, rested and happy. Tonight, if you hear a soft hush in the air, it might be Droppy nearby, sharing its nap with you. Close your eyes, little one. The sky is sleepy too. Good night. Good evening, peaceful heart. Tonight's story is about a lamp. Not one you turn on with a switch, but one that glowed only when your mind and heart were quiet. In a quiet bedroom with soft blue walls and a window full of stars, there sat a small round lamp on a little table. It didn't have a button. It didn't hum or blink. But when the room was calm, the lamp would glow. The lamp's name was Lumi. It had lived there for many years, watching over the children who came and went. It didn't need batteries. It didn't need to be plugged in. It only needed peace. Lumi didn't glow during loud stories or fast games. It stayed dark during stomping feet or bouncy laughter. But when someone sat quietly, or took a deep breath, or whispered a bedtime wish, Lumi would shine. Not brightly, just enough to make the room feel soft and safe. One evening, a girl named Nora was feeling restless. She tossed and turned. She huffed and puffed. The room stayed dark. She looked at Lumi and said, "Why won't you light up tonight?" Lumi, of course, said nothing. But Nora remembered what her mother once told her. The lamp only glows when your heart slows. So Nora tried something different. She closed her eyes. She breathed in slowly. 1, 2, 3, and out. 1, 2, 3. She thought of quiet things. A floating leaf, a sleeping kitten, a cloud wrapped in a blanket. And just like that, softly, Lumi began to glow. It wasn't magic, it was calm. The soft light filled the room, hugging the shadows and kissing the ceiling. Nora smiled and whispered, "Thank you." She drifted into sleep with the gentle light beside her. From that night on, whenever she felt too wiggly or wild, she would sit still, close her eyes, and wait for Lumi's glow. Not as a reward, but as a reminder. Calm lives inside us, and sometimes it just needs the quiet to shine. So tonight, before sleep comes, try something soft, a deep breath, a quiet thought, a moment of stillness. Who knows? Maybe something inside you will start to glow too. Good night. Hello again, little dreamer. Tonight's story is about a tiny cloud who drifted far across the sky, but was so sleepy it forgot to rain. High above the fields and forest floated a little cloud named Puff. He was round and soft, fluffier than cotton, lighter than a whisper. All the other clouds had jobs. Some rumbled with thunder, some poured heavy rain, and others painted sunsets with color. But Puff was still new. His job was simple. Just float and give the earth a gentle sprinkle. But there was one small problem. Puff loved to nap. Every time he got ready to rain, he yawned. And when he yawned, his drizzle paused. Then his eyes got droopy. Then his raindrops curled up like little pillows. And before he knew it, he was asleep again. One evening, the sky turned orange and quiet. The flowers below waited with thirsty petals, and the birds tilted their heads, wondering where the rain had gone. Puff tried his best. He stretched wide, puffed up, and whispered, "Okay, now I'll sprinkle, just a little." But instead, he drifted gently over a hill, snuggled into the breeze, and fell asleep again. Down below, a little girl named Ava looked up. She smiled at the floating fluff and said, "Don't worry, Cloud, you can rain another day." She filled a cup with water and gave it to the flowers herself. And Puff, way up in the sky, dreamed of soft puddles and fields full of giggles. Tonight, if the rain doesn't come, maybe a sleepy cloud like Puff is just taking a gentle nap above your window. Sleep well, little one.
Hello, little listener. Tonight's story is about the moon, not just shining above us, but listening every night for its very favorite lullaby.
Every night, the moon rose quietly into the sky. It didn't make a sound. It simply watched the world grow sleepy, windows dimming, stars blinking on, trees whispering to the wind. But there was something the moon loved more than anything: lullabies. Not loud ones, not fancy ones, just the soft hums that parents sang, the little tunes whispered into tiny ears, the melodies that floated gently up into the sky. The moon listened closely. It had favorites, of course, like the one a mother sang to her baby in a rocking chair by the window, or the soft hum of a father brushing back a child's hair as they closed their eyes. But one night, the moon heard something new. It came from a small village where a girl named Ilara sang quietly to her little brother. She didn't know all the words. Her voice was a bit wobbly, but it was real, warm, true. The moon leaned in closer, casting a soft glow through their window. The lullaby floated upward like a feather in the air. Close your eyes, the stars are near. Sleep will find you, have no fear. The moon sighed. It was the kind of song that felt like a blanket. From that night on, the moon returned to Ilara's window every evening, just in time for her lullaby. Sometimes the stars twinkled along with the rhythm. Sometimes the breeze slowed down to listen. Ilara never noticed, but her brother always fell asleep faster. And the moon? It glowed a little brighter each night, because even though it had heard lullabies for thousands of years, that one, simple and soft, became its very favorite. Tonight, if you sing softly, hum gently, or even whisper to the quiet, the moon might be listening. And it just might smile. Good night.
Hello, Starry Snuggler.
Tonight's story is about a pair of pajamas that didn't just keep a child warm. They lit up gently in the dark and carried them into the softest dreams. In a little dresser, folded neatly between cozy shirts and socks, lay a pair of very special pajamas. They looked like ordinary sleepwear, dark blue with tiny silver dots. But when the lights turned off and the room grew still, something magical happened. The silver dots began to sparkle. Not like glitter, not like fireflies, but soft, slow flickers like stars sighing in the dark. A child named Juna discovered them one chilly evening. She pulled them on and they felt just right, warm at the toes, soft at the collar, and light as a whisper. As she lay down, her covers tucked around her, the pajamas began to shimmer. And then the stars on her pajamas slowly lifted, floating like glowing dust. Juna felt her body relax, and suddenly she was drifting. The pajamas weren't just clothes, they were a ship, a starship. She sailed through skies made of velvet, past sleepy clouds and blinking planets. Comets waved hello, and shooting stars twirled in slow, dreamy circles. Her ship made no sound, only a faint hum, like a lullaby wrapped in moonlight. Juna didn't steer. The pajamas knew the way. They carried her to places no one else had ever dreamed, gardens of quiet giggles, lakes of shimmering light, and floating beds of cloud-soft pillows. And when her dream was done, the pajamas gently brought her back to bed, just in time for the morning light to peek through the window. The sparkles faded, but Juna always woke up with the feeling that something magical had happened. And each night, when she put on her starry pajamas, she smiled, ready to fly again. Tonight, when you slip into bed, imagine your pajamas glowing quietly, ready to carry you somewhere beautiful. Good night.
Hello, Soft Explorer. Tonight's story is about a closet. Not one full of clothes, but one with a hidden doorway to a land made entirely of pillows. In a quiet bedroom, in the corner near the nightlight, stood a small white closet. To most, it looked ordinary, a place for pajamas, socks, and maybe a toy or two on the bottom shelf. But to a little girl named Leela, it was something more. Because one evening, just before bed, she heard a soft poof coming from inside. She opened the door slowly, and instead of shelves and hangers, she saw pillows! Thousands of them, fluffy, floating, stacked high and deep like clouds in a soft sky. A gentle wind blew through, smelling like warm blankets and sleepy dreams. Leela stepped inside. The ground was made of bouncy cushions. The trees were tall stacks of pillows with feathery leaves. And the sky above shimmered with gentle bedtime colors: lavender, silver, pale blue. She walked through the pillow world barefoot, each step as light as air. No one hurried there. No one shouted. Only soft yawns, slow stretches, and cozy sighs. Leela met creatures made of pillows too. A round owl who blinked slowly and spoke in hums. A cat who purred lullabies, and a sleepy dragon who curled up beside her and offered a wing as a blanket. There were no clocks in Pillow World, no rules, just rest. When Leela grew sleepy, a bit of marshmallowy fluff appeared beneath her. She lay down, hugged the pillow as big as the moon, and closed her eyes inside the dream. And just like that, she was gently back in her own room in her own bed, with her closet door slightly ajar and a single feather on the floor. From that night on, whenever she needed calm or comfort, she'd open the closet slowly and listen. If she heard the poof, she knew the pillow world was waiting. Tonight, before you sleep, take a peek at your closet. Maybe, just maybe, a pillow world is waiting behind it. Good night. Hello again, sleepy friend. Tonight's story is about a pair of tiny shoes that didn't move during the day, but danced, skipped, and wandered far once dreams began. In a quiet corner of a little room sat a pair of soft shoes. They were not shiny. They weren't new. They had no laces, no lights, no squeaks. But they had something special inside them. Dream steps. You see, these shoes had been worn by many children before, and every time they carried a child through dreams, they remembered. They remembered puddles made of stars, clouds that bounced, and playgrounds built in the sky. Now they belonged to a girl named Mira. Each morning, Mira would slip them on and shuffle around the house. They didn't go fast. They didn't make much noise. They were just shoes. But at night, once Mira climbed into bed, closed her eyes, and drifted off, the shoes woke up. Very quietly, they wiggled their soles, stretched their tiny tongues, and tiptoed to the edge of the bed. And then they lifted into the air, one step, then two, and waited for Mira's dream to begin. In her dream, Mira would find herself walking through gardens that glowed in the dark, where butterflies wore pajamas and trees told bedtime jokes. The shoes always knew where to go. Sometimes they led her over dream bridges that swayed gently over lullaby rivers. Sometimes they took her across soft sand that hummed with sleepy melodies. Sometimes they just walked beside her, step by step, while the stars above blinked in rhythm. Mira never tripped, never got lost, because the shoes remembered every dream they had ever visited. And when the dream was done, and morning light kissed the sky, the shoes quietly returned to the corner, still, soft, silent, waiting for the next adventure. So tonight, if your shoes are resting by your bed, thank them gently. They just might be waiting for your dream to begin. Good night.